Gray dawn light filtered through dying leaves as Thomas Carver and his daughter Lily walked the fence line. Their breath made small clouds in the cold October air. Frost clung to fence posts like white lace. The valley floor held mist close, reluctant to release it. Thomas moved with the careful weariness of a man who'd stopped expecting anything good. Lily skipped beside him, 7 years old and still believing in mornings. Her copper hair caught what little light broke through the clouds. She looked like her mother. Thomas tried not to notice. "Papa, look." Lily stopped short, pointing toward the old oak tree at the property's edge. Thomas squinted. Something wrong there. A shape that shouldn't exist. His hand found Lily's shoulder, protective instinct rising before thought. They approached slowly. The shape became clearer with each step. A horse. Chestnut gelding. Thin enough to count ribs. Tied to the oak tree with rough rope, the animal trembled. Though morning wasn't cold enough to warrant such shaking. Fear. Then, Thomas knew that kind of trembling. "He's hurt," Lily whispered. "Stay back." Thomas moved closer alone. The horse's eyes tracked him. Large, dark, gentle despite the fear. No wildness there. Just a creature waiting to see what the world would do next. Thomas understood that feeling too well. Then he saw the blanket. Faded blue fabric. Hand-stitched with tiny stars. A baby blanket wrapped around the rope where it met the tree trunk. The kind of blanket a mother might make, hoping for the child she'd hold. Thomas's chest tightened. Sarah had made one just like it. Yellow. With daisies. It sat in a drawer he never opened. "Papa! There's writing!" Lily pointed to a folded paper pinned to the blanket. Thomas unpinned it carefully. Unfolded it. Handwriting. Desperate but clear. "Please save." She would have wanted him loved. Thomas read it twice. The words made questions he didn't want to ask. Who was she? What kind of person ties a horse to a tree with a baby blanket? What kind of desperation leads to such an act? Can we keep him? Lily's voice held that particular hope children carry before the world. Teaches them otherwise. Thomas shook his head. Some things can't be saved, Lily girl. But even as he spoke, his hands were already untying the rope. The horse stood still, patient, as if he'd been waiting for exactly this moment, when the rope fell away. He didn't bolt. He simply turned his head toward Lily. She reached out slowly. Her small fingers touched the velvet muzzle. The horse exhaled, a long breath that seemed to release years of holding. Something cracked in Thomas's chest. First feeling in 2 years. He didn't know if he should welcome it or run. A man's word and his care of a horse, his father used to say. That's how you measure him. Thomas took the rope in his hand. The horse followed without resistance. Lily walked beside them both, her face bright as morning should be. Even a blind mule knows when the barn doors open. Thomas muttered. He just hoped he wasn't making a mistake he'd regret. The horse stood in the barn's center aisle, ribs visible beneath dull coat. While Lily circled him like he was made of morning light, Thomas worked with efficient hands. Water bucket filled, grain measured carefully. Too much too fast would make him sick. He checked hooves, examined legs, looked for wounds, found none. Just neglect. Just a creature forgotten by whoever should have remembered. He needs a name, Lily announced. Thomas grunted. Naming made things permanent. I'm calling him Hope. Thomas winced. That word, the most dangerous word he knew. Hope had killed his wife as surely as the influenza had. Hope that she'd recover. Hope that the doctor would arrive in time. Hope that prayers meant something. Call him what you want. Thomas said, He's not staying. But even as he spoke, he was hanging his coat on the nail by the stall door, settling in. Lily talked to the horse constantly. Thomas heard her from where he worked, replacing a rotted board. She told Hope about her mama in heaven, about how Papa used to smile, about how the cabin felt empty even when they were both inside. Thomas pretended not to hear. Evening brought clouds building on the horizon. Temperature dropped another 10 degrees. Thomas considered the horse, then his daughter, then the darkening sky. A knock at the cabin door made him reach for the rifle by instinct. They rarely had visitors. He'd made sure of that, opening the door. He found a woman on horseback, late 20s, perhaps early 30s, dark hair beneath a practical hat, eyes that held grief like old friends. She wore riding clothes meant for travel, not show. Mr. Carver. Her voice carried education beneath Western practicality. Who's asking? Clara Beaumont. I'm a traveling veterinarian. She dismounted with easy grace. I'm tracking a horse that was stolen from my camp 3 nights ago. Chestnut gelding. Star on forehead. Have you seen him? Thomas weighed his options. Lying served no purpose. He's in my barn. Relief washed across her features. Thank God. Is he well? Thin, scared, but well enough. May I see him? Thomas stepped aside, in the barn. Clara moved directly to the horse. Her hands traveled his body with practiced knowledge. The horse stood calm beneath her touch. Mrs. Patterson's horse, Clara said softly. I was caring for him while she... While she what? Clara straightened. Mrs. Patterson died 3 days ago in Millfield. Cancer. She had no family. Her dying wish was for this horse to find a loving home. Someone stole him from my camp before I could arrange proper placement. And the blanket. Clara's expression shifted. Deeper grief. I gave that blanket to Mrs. Patterson. She'd never had children, never had family. That blanket represented the hope she carried her whole life. She wanted it to go with the horse, to whoever found him. Thomas looked at the baby blanket, still wrapped around the halter. A dying woman's hope, tied to a horse, left at a tree where Thomas had once believed in his own future. I didn't mean to keep him, Thomas said. Yet here he is. Clara's eyes held no judgment. Would you consider letting him stay? Mrs. Patterson wanted him loved. Your daughter clearly already does. Lily appeared in the barn doorway. Papa, please. Clara spoke again. He needs monitoring tonight. I'd like to ensure he's truly well after his ordeal. Might I stay? Just overnight? I have my own provisions. No. Papa. Lily's voice carried that particular pleading. Thomas looked at his daughter, at the horse, at the woman whose grief seemed to understand his own. One night, he said finally. Then you ride on. Agreed. Clara nodded. Thomas walked back to the cabin, behind him. He heard Clara whisper to the horse. Gentle words, caring words, from the window. He watched her work through midnight. Patient, thorough, kind. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth, he told himself. But do check who's holding the reins. He just wasn't sure which of them held the reins anymore. Clara knelt beside Hope, her hands moving with practiced gentleness, while Thomas watched from the doorway, half guardian, half ghost. Morning coffee steamed between them at the kitchen table. Lily had gone to feed chickens, leaving adults alone with their silences. Lily's mother. Clara asked it softly, the way one survivor asks another. Thomas's jaw tightened. Influenza, 2 years back. I'm sorry. She was sick 3 days. I should have gone for the doctor immediately. Roads were bad. I hesitated. The words came out rusty, unused. By the time I went, it was too late. He arrived to find her already gone. Clara set down her cup. Grief doesn't make us guilty. It makes us wish we were... Thomas looked up sharply. I lost my husband and son. Clara said, same epidemic, different town. I was treating others when my own family needed me. They died while I saved strangers. The words hung between them. Two people carrying burdens they'd never set down. From outside, Lily's voice carried, "Hope. You're so handsome when you eat." Clara almost smiled. "Your daughter has her mother's spirit, I imagine. Too much of it." Thomas stood abruptly. "Horse needs water." He escaped to the barn. Clara didn't follow. She understood retreat. That afternoon, Lily cornered Clara by the water pump. "Will you teach me to care for Hope properly? Papa knows horses, but he's sad." "You know horses and you're less sad." Clara glanced toward Thomas, who pretended to mend fence while clearly listening. "I could stay a few days," Clara offered. "The horse does need monitoring. And I could use rest before continuing my rounds." Thomas's hammer paused. "A week," Clara suggested to the air. "He'll need that long to regain full strength." Lily's eyes went wide with hope. "Papa, please." Thomas drove another nail into fence post, then another. Finally, he straightened. "1 week. Then you ride on?" "Agreed." Clara's voice held gratitude he pretended not to notice. That evening, Thomas walked to Sarah's grave on the hill. Snow flurries had begun, gentle as whispers. He knelt on cold ground. "I don't know how to do this. Sarah, a woman and a horse and our daughter smiling. Is this right? Is this betrayal?" No answer came, just wine through bare branches. Lily smiled today. Really smiled. "First time since you left." He touched the headstone, cold granite, unchanging. 1 week. That's all. But walking back to the cabin, he saw a lamp burning in window. Someone waiting. First time in 2 years. The warmth pulled at him like a physical thing. "You can't unsee the sunrise once it's touched the horizon," his father used to say. Thomas feared his sunrise had arrived. Thomas hammered the last nail into the barn roof, looking down to where Clara guided Lily's hands along Hope's flank. Their laughter rose like wood smoke. Days had established rhythm. Clara taught Lily horsemanship each morning. Thomas repaired what he'd let deteriorate. Afternoons brought coffee and conversation. Evenings brought quiet companionship that asked nothing. Hope transformed daily. His coat began to shine. His eyes lost their wariness. He followed Lily like a devoted guardian. Lily transformed too. She slept through the night now. No more dreams where she called for Mama. She ate full meals without Thomas coaxing each bite. She talked constantly about Hope, about Clara's veterinary stories, about everything and nothing. Thomas found himself listening, responding, almost participating. At the general store, Mr. Henderson remarked, "Thomas Carver, did you just smile?" Thomas stiffened. "Gas pains." "Sure it was." Henderson winked. "Heard you got company at the ranch. Mrs. Patterson's horse found good home. Sounds like—" Thomas paid for his supplies quickly and left. That evening, Clara noticed Sarah's garden. Weeds had conquered it. Wooden markers rotted. What once bloomed now lay forgotten. "Beautiful bones to that garden," Clara observed. "Come spring, it could flourish again." Thomas's jaw tightened. "It's fine as is. I could help you restore it." Sarah clearly had skill. "I said it's fine." His voice cut sharper than intended. Clara stepped back. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to overstep. Gardens are sacred ground. It's just weeds now." But his voice caught on something. "Weeds are just flowers waiting for someone to notice them." Thomas walked away. Clara didn't follow. She understood boundaries too. That night, after Lily slept, Thomas walked to the garden alone. Moonlight caught the tangles. Somewhere beneath the chaos, Sarah's roses waited. Her herbs, her carefully planned rows. He knelt, touched frozen soil. Something stirred in his chest. Unfamiliar, almost painful. Even the hardest ground softens with enough patient rain, Clara had said once. He wasn't sure he wanted to soften. From the cabin window, he saw Clara in the barn, checking on Hope one final time. Lily had fallen asleep against Hope's shoulder. Clara gently lifted her, carried her toward the cabin. Thomas met them at the door, took his sleeping daughter. "Thank you," he whispered. "She's easy to love," Clara replied. Their eyes held for a moment. Something unspoken passed between them. Thomas carried Lily to bed. When he returned to the window, Clara was still in the barn, brushing Hope's mane, patient, gentle, present. He watched for 10 minutes. Not guarding, just watching, feeling. He wasn't sure when watching had become wanting. The fire crackled low as Clara closed her book. And in the quiet, Thomas realized neither had mentioned that her week was ending tomorrow. Lily had gone to bed, exhausted from teaching Hope to respond to voice commands. The child learned quickly. The horse responded to her like she'd always been his person. Clara set aside her book. Thomas pretended to whittle, though he'd made no progress on the piece. "I should prepare to leave tomorrow," Clara finally said. Thomas's knife paused. "Of course." He managed, "You have rounds to make." "I do." Silence stretched. Fire popped. "Though Hope isn't quite fully recovered," Clara added. "No, he isn't. Another week would ensure complete restoration." Thomas looked up. Their eyes met. "Stay until he's fully well," Thomas said. "Makes sense." "It does." Neither mentioned that Hope was nearly perfect now. Neither needed to. Days passed. Week 2 began. One evening, Lily already asleep, Clara spoke into the firelight. "I've traveled for a year. Since losing them, can't seem to settle anywhere." Thomas waited. "Every town reminds me of what I had. Every child reminds me of who I lost. Every sunset reminds me of evenings when my house was full of laughter. So you keep moving." "So I keep moving." She looked at him. "Until I find somewhere that doesn't remind me. Or somewhere that reminds me it's worth stopping anyway." Thomas set down his whittling. "I stopped living when Sarah died," he heard himself say. "Just forgot to stop breathing. Easier to be dead while still standing. That way nothing else can hurt. But nothing else can heal either. Healing requires hoping. And hoping requires risking." They sat with that truth between them. Later that week, Lily approached Clara with characteristic directness. "Do you have to go? Hope needs you." "Papa needs you. I need you." Clara knelt to Lily's level. "What do you think I should do?" "Stay. Be my mama. Make Papa smile forever." Clara's eyes filled. She looked to Thomas, standing in the doorway. "Do you want me to go?" she asked him. Thomas's silence stretched. His fear screamed to protect himself. His heart whispered otherwise. "I want you to stay." He finally said, "I just don't know how to deserve it." Clara stood. "Maybe deserving isn't the point. Maybe accepting is—" That night, Thomas visited Sarah's grave under stars. "Is this betrayal, or is this what you'd want for me? For Lily?" Wind stirred. No answer came. "I'm scared. Sarah. Scared of loving again. Scared of losing again. Scared of living again." He stayed until his knees ached from cold ground. Walking back, he saw a lamp burning in window. Clara had left it lit for him. "A man can't ride 2 trails at once," his father used to say, "but he can choose which one leads home." Thomas chose the door with the light. Thomas felt the eyes before he heard the whispers. Mrs. Harmon's voice carrying across the general store like wind through a cracked door. Improper arrangement, widow woman and single father, under same roof. What example does that set for the child? Thomas's spine straightened. His supplies sat unpaid on the counter. Mr. Henderson leaned close. Don't mind Harriet Harmon. She finds scandal in sunshine. But Thomas noticed the other looks. Men who'd been friendly now studied their boots. Women who'd once offered casseroles now turned away. He paid quickly and left. 3 days later, Pastor Morrison rode to the ranch. Thomas saw him coming and felt dread settle in his stomach. Thomas. The pastor dismounted. Might we talk? Clara appeared in the barn doorway. Lily beside her, both sensing trouble. Mrs. Beaumont. Pastor Morrison tipped his hat. Perhaps you might give us a moment. Of course. Clara took Lily inside, but not before Thomas saw worry cross her features. Pastor Morrison spoke gently. Thomas, you know I respected Sarah deeply, and I understand your grief. But there's been talk. A widow woman living here. It's not conventional. She's helping with the horse, teaching Lily. I don't doubt her character or yours, but appearances matter. Perhaps Mrs. Beaumont could board in town, visit daily to help with the horse. She's done nothing wrong. It's not about wrong. It's about proper. The pastor's face held genuine concern. Think of Lily. Children need proper examples, Thomas wanted to argue. But the weight of judgment pressed against his chest. Inside the cabin. Clara met his eyes when he entered. I heard enough, she said quietly. I'll leave today. I won't damage your reputation or Lily's. Clara, it's fine. I understand. No anger in her voice. Just tired acceptance. Reputation is survival out here. You can't fight the whole town. Lily overheard from the doorway. Her face crumpled. No, Clara can't leave. Hope needs her. We need her. She ran to the barn before Thomas could stop her. Clara began packing. Methodical. Resigned. Thomas watched, feeling something die inside him. Perhaps the pastor is right, he heard himself say. Propriety matters. Clara nodded, not looking up. You're doing what you think best for Lily. Am I? She didn't answer. That night, Clara's bag sat by the door, ready for morning departure. Hope paced restlessly in barn, sensing wrongness. Lily sat silent at dinner, refusing to eat. Thomas felt the cold he'd invited back inside. The isolation he'd thought protected him now felt like prison. The longest winter, he realized, is the one you build yourself. A fence keeps out wolves, his father used to say, but it also keeps out the sunrise. Thomas had built his fence. Now he sat alone behind it. The barn door crashed open at midnight, Lily's scream cutting through the storm. Papa Hope's dying. Thomas ran from bed, not bothering with coat. Clara was already moving from the guest room. In the barn, Hope lay on his side, thrashing. Sweat darkened his coat. His breathing came in terrible gasps. Colic, Clara said immediately, kneeling beside him. Twisted gut, bad one. What do we do? Clara transformed. Gone was the quiet grief. Here was the professional. We get him up. Now, he needs to walk. Thomas grabbed the halter. Together they hauled Hope to his feet. The horse groaned, tried to drop again. Walk him, Clara commanded. Keep him moving. I'll prepare medicine. Thomas walked Hope in circles. The horse resisted, wanting only to lie down. To give up. Thomas understood that feeling. He kept walking anyway. Clara returned with mixture, held bucket while Hope reluctantly drank. More walking. Don't let him roll. Rolling makes it worse. Hours passed. Thomas walked until his legs burned. Clara monitored constantly, checking vital signs, adjusting treatment. Lily sat in the corner, small voice steady. Please, God, please save Hope. Please. Thomas walked past her each circuit. Her faith made his eyes sting. Near dawn, Hope's breathing changed. Less labored, more regular. He's stabilizing, Clara said, relief making her voice shake. Another hour of walking. Then Hope stopped fighting. His head came up. His eyes cleared. Crisis passed. Clara slumped against the stall wall. He'll live. Thomas released the halter. His hands trembled. His legs nearly gave out. He sat beside Clara in the hay. Neither spoke for long moments. Finally, Thomas broke the silence. Stay. Clara looked at him. The town. I've spent 2 years caring what everyone thinks. My daughter's happiness. Your safety. That horse's life. That's what matters. I'll stand for that. Let them judge. Thomas, I'm done being dead while breathing. Stay. Not for Hope. For us. Clara's eyes filled. Are you sure? Only sure thing I've known in 2 years. She touched his hand. He didn't pull away. Then I'll stay. Sunrise broke through barn slats. Golden light touched them where they sat. Lily saw Hope standing steady and ran to wrap arms around his neck. You lived. You lived, thank you. God. Thomas watched his daughter and his horse and his... Clara. Sometimes the thing that needs saving most is the one doing the saving, Clara said softly. Thomas understood. They'd all been saving each other. Dawn comes whether you're ready or not. His father used to say, might as well face it standing. Thomas was ready to stand. Thomas straightened his collar outside the church doors. First time he'd attended since Sarah's funeral. His hands wouldn't stop trembling. Clara waited beside him. Dressed in her best blue dress, Lily stood between them, wearing the ribbon Clara had braided into her hair. Ready? Clara asked. No. Thomas smiled grimly. But we're going anyway. They entered together. Heads turned. Whispers rippled through congregation like wind through wheat. Mrs. Harmon's eyebrows climbed toward heaven. Other faces showed surprise, curiosity, judgment. Thomas led them to a middle pew. They sat together. Family. Whatever anyone thought. Pastor Morrison began his sermon. Thomas barely heard the words. His mind rehearsed what he needed to say. His heart hammered with fear and conviction equally. The service ended. Congregation spilled onto churchyard for Sunday fellowship. Thomas knew this was his moment. He stepped forward, cleared his throat. Neighbors, might I have a word? Conversation stopped. Eyes turned to him. Mrs. Harmon's lips thinned. Thomas's voice carried clear across the yard. Most of you know I've kept to myself since Sarah died. Grief does that to a man. Makes him build walls. Makes him think alone is safe. He paused. Lily's hand found his. Mrs. Clara Beaumont came to my ranch tracking a horse. That horse was a dying woman's last wish to find a loving home. Mrs. Beaumont stayed to ensure the horse recovered. She taught my daughter to hope again. She reminded me that living isn't betrayal. Mrs. Harmon started to speak. Thomas continued louder. I know there's been talk, improper arrangement, bad example. But I ask you, what's improper about compassion? What's bad about a woman? Teaching a child kindness. About a daughter learning to love again. Silence held the crowd. My wife Sarah would have been first to welcome a widow in need. First to offer shelter. First to see the good in someone's heart instead of the gossip on their tongue. His voice strengthened. I'm not dishonoring her memory by allowing kindness into our home. I'm honoring it. He looked directly at Mrs. Harmon. If compassion is improper, then I'll be improper. If caring for those who need it is wrong, then I'll be wrong. But I won't be dead anymore. And I won't teach my daughter to judge the hurting instead of helping them. Silence stretched. Old Henderson stepped forward, weathered face solemn. He removed his hat. Your Sarah was good people, Thomas. You're being good people too. He nodded to Clara. Ma'am, you're welcome in this town. Pastor Morrison spoke next. Seems to me, compassion's never improper. Judgment often is. I owe you an apology. Thomas, and you, Mrs. Beaumont. Mrs. Harmon's mouth opened and closed. No words emerged. The general store owner's wife approached Clara. Would you and Thomas and Lily join us for Sunday dinner? I make a fine roast. Clara's eyes glistened. We'd be honored. Walking home later. Lily held both their hands. Hope waited at the fence line, whinnied greeting. Thomas stopped at Sarah's garden, weeds dormant but waiting. Come spring, he said to Clara. Will you help me plant this? Sarah would want it to bloom again. Clara squeezed his hand. I'd be honored. Something complete. Something beginning. A man's worth ain't measured by his words, Thomas thought, but by what he's willing to lose for them. He'd risked everything, gained everything. Steam rose from the dark soil as Thomas turned the garden earth. Clara walked beside him, dropping seeds into furrows. Lily read aloud from the porch, her voice carrying clear as church bells across the warming March land. Hope grazed nearby, coat gleaming copper in spring sunshine. Fully healthy now, fully home. 3 months had passed since the church stand. Winter had softened into spring. Snow had melted into streams. Ice had broken into flowing water. Thomas had built an addition to the cabin, small room with its own entrance. Clara's veterinary practice. Her sign hung beside the door. C. Beaumont, animal doctoring. Townspeople came now, brought sick animals, brought respect. Mrs. Harmon even brought her cat once, though she still couldn't quite meet Clara's eyes. Papa. I finished the chapter. Lily called. What happens next? The family finds their farm. Thomas smiled. Lily had learned to read in 3 months. Clara's patient teaching. Hours of practice. Now the child devoured books like Hope devoured apples. Evening brought porch sitting. Their new ritual. Coffee for adults. Milk for Lily. Hope standing just beyond the steps, waiting for his nightly apple. The blanket, Clara said. What should we do with it? Thomas considered. The baby blanket that had started everything. Mrs. Patterson's hope tied to a tree. Frame it, he decided. Hang it in Lily's room. Reminder that sometimes please save gets answered. Clara nodded. Mrs. Patterson would like that. They sat in comfortable silence. Crickets sang. First fireflies appeared. I stopped planning my next destination, Clara said quietly. Thomas looked at her. Months ago, actually. Stopped mapping where I'd go next. Stopped thinking of this as temporary. Thomas's heart expanded. I stopped waiting for life to end. Their hands found each other. Not dramatic, just natural, like sunrise. Like spring after winter. Lily appeared in the doorway, paper in hand. I wrote a letter to Mrs. Patterson in heaven. What does it say? Clara asked. Lily read carefully. Dear Mrs. Patterson, thank you for sending us Hope. I think you sent him so we wouldn't be lonely anymore. Papa smiles now. Clara stays with us. Hope loves me. We're a family. You probably knew that would happen. You're probably happy watching from heaven with my mama. They're probably friends now. Thank you for saving all of us. Not just the horse. Love. Lily Carver. Thomas's eyes burned. Out of the mouths of babes, Clara whispered. Out of the hearts of those brave enough to love. Thomas replied. Lily folded her letter. Can we bury it by Hope's tree, so Mrs. Patterson finds it? Perfect idea, Thomas said. They walked together to the oak tree. Twilight painted everything gold and purple. Hope followed behind. Loyal shadow. The tree wore a sign now. Carved wooden plaque. Hope's tree. Lily dug small hole, placed her letter, covered it gently. There, she said, satisfied. Now Mrs. Patterson knows. They stood together, looking at the tree where everything had changed. Thomas touched the bark, rough beneath his fingers, solid, enduring. Thank you, Sarah, he whispered. Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. Thank you. Papa. Lily tugged his hand. Yes. Are we happy now? Thomas looked at his daughter, at Clara, at Hope grazing peacefully, at the garden showing green shoots, at the cabin with lamp already lit in window. Yes. Lily girl, we're happy now. She grinned. Good. Clara made biscuits. I'm hungry. She ran toward home. Hope followed, not wanting to miss potential treats. Clara lingered with Thomas. Every storm ends with sunrise, she said softly. Every broken heart can rebuild. They walked toward home together. The cabin waited, lamp burning, biscuits warming, daughter laughing, horse expecting apples. Family, found in the strangest soil, grown from the deepest grief. Thomas paused at the fence line, looked back at the oak tree, looked forward at the cabin. Home ain't where you hang your hat. His father used to say, it's where your heart learns to stay. His heart had learned, finally. He'd found the horse tied and begging. Turned out, they'd all been tied there, all been waiting, and saving that something they'd done together. Thomas walked toward home, toward family, toward morning.